Oh, okay.
It's your past president, Curtis Chen. I'm sitting in for President Shiraz today, and I'd like to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Foster City. We are the club that cooks. And President Shiraz wants to remind us that our secret sauce is you, our members, and our teamwork and our friendship. And I'd like to invite Ann Ritzma. I see you on Zoom to lead us in the pledge.
You can follow me. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. And then Jim Gold
Yep.
with a thought.
Okay, this is from Anthony J. Angelo, who's a professor in public relations at Syracuse University. And they're actually, I have two of them that I'll read, both very short. Wherever you go, no matter what the weather, always bring your own sunshine. And the second one is, your mind is like a parachute. It only works when it is open.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
And we can hear you loud and clear, which is great. Okay, I'd like to remind the Zoomers to please stay on mute and use the chat function if you have any issues, and we'll try to resolve that here. And then Shiraz has instituted a discount on the cell phone ringing to $25 this year. That would go to our club if we hear your phone ring during the meeting. All right, are there any visiting Rotarians? Yes, please. A microphone's coming to you.
Gautam Mehta from Rotary Club Kadosh, District 182, India. I bring you all good wishes from my governor and from members of all my club. All the best to you. You had a very successful Rotary Governors visit. My congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Any other visiting Rotarians? Any guests of the club today? Don't see any online either. Okay. Good news. Any good news to share? No one has good news? Do you have good news? Oh, you're doing the minutes. No good news? Good news online? Oh, John Grant. Okay.
I don't know if it's good news or not, but I had the fortune of being able to attend Cliff Dockerman's memorial ceremony on Saturday. The nice thing about that is while I was driving out of town, I saw this lone figure off to the left, cleaning up the highway all by himself. Larry Kevin, thank you very much for what you do.
Any other good news? Phyllis Harrison. Wait for the microphone, please.
I have good news and bad news. Bad news was that my son was diagnosed with stomach cancer 2 weeks ago. Good news is he was operating on.
Can any of you hear what they're saying?
So that is tremendous relief.
No.
Service and was exposed to all kinds of. So it's always been a good word for us. So the Veterans Hospital did a fabulous job. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move to the Sunshine Report. Patricia Nutting, do you have something to say about yourself? Okay, can you make it up here or do we give you a microphone? Okay, JP? Here.
Well, just a heads up for anyone.
Tip it toward your mouth. Yep.
For anyone that needs sudden attention health-wise, forget about just going to an urgent care, okay? The Veterans Foster City is closed, and I don't know for how long. Phyllis, I called her as I walked into my own dishwasher, lacerated my left lower leg. I called, what was it, 10:06. She said, don't worry, I'll get you over to urgent care in Foster City. They're closed. So she called, she was gonna take me down to Palo Alto, not Palo Alto, San Carlos. And they said, we can't see you, we close at 7, you need an appointment. We go to Mills, we close at 7, do you have an appointment? And now I am on 2 blood thinners, and it's quite obvious that there's a real mess here. And so she'd go to Peninsula. We get to Peninsula, and we were there for hours. I asked how much longer, 18 patients ahead of me, and they were backed up in the ER, big time. So I said, you know what, we've already been here over 2 hours, and they said it'd be 4 to 5 hour wait. So I went home. Phyllis patched up my leg at 7 o'clock at night. I did call, and I got an appointment the next morning at the Palo Alto urgent care. Been there 3 times since. The wound itself is a sutures. That's not the problem. The problem is I'm on 2 anticoagulants, so that's the problem. And so anyway, we're waiting for things to resolve. I've been sitting with my leg up. Phyllis was kind enough to bring me to the meeting today, brought me at the front door. Here I am. You come get this microphone, please. And I haven't heard about anyone else this week. And God bless Phyllis. And Phyllis, she's been the same between everything was sweet.
Okay, hope you heal up quickly. And Teresa?
Hi there. So I have the pleasure of running my very first professional football game. Thank you very much, Mark Wilson. I went, we played San Francisco, played with the Green Bay Packers, and I don't know if you know my background, but strong Green Bay Packer fans, so it's a little heartbreaking that they didn't win, but it was a fabulous time. Beautiful stadium, my stadium that we've ever been, and so just very appreciative and happy that we got to go. I had a gift for her.
Where's Mark? Oh, there you are. Okay, Mary Bates, another good news.
I may owe you more because I actually have 2 things. One I'll cry about, the other one I won't. So since Miss Teresa learned about clear bags, when you go into the stadium, they were pretty tough. They sent us back to the car and the whole bit. I got you your very first stadium bag. Yay. I am because and then with that, I don't know if you guys know what's going on in Sierra Leone in Africa, but I have a grandson, believe it or not, that has been doing humanitarian service there for the past 2 years. They had civil unrest, riots, mass chaos, and burned down the local hospital, but the airport made it. He is landing today, just so he's back safe. I thought you should know that because he's sort of been reared by me and his mom to do humanitarian service throughout the world.
Thank you, Mary. Any other good news to share? Okay, I'm going to move to announcements now. I'm going to pass around a letter here. As you know, thanks to Nancy Gordon, we have a scholarship fund that is funded by her endowment. And so we funded some scholarships for Hill Barn Theater for their summer program. And this is just a thank you letter describing the students that benefited from that scholarship. It was actually 3 students. So we were able to fund, or they were able to fund 2 full scholarships and 1 partial scholarship. So I'm just going to pass this around for people to read. And I'll ask Jamie to come up for summer, and Jamie and Phoebe, right, for summer days.
Yes, this weekend we have summer days and the Friday summer concert. Summer concert?
Yeah. Got it.
So we have, I'm going to let Phoebe ask about slots, help slots for Friday.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm not asking, I'm begging. Because we want to make sure that we deliver a great experience for the members of our community. And we want to make sure that people who are already volunteering aren't working like multiple shifts, because that's not fun. So I do need, the biggest need is in food sales Friday evening, 6:30 to 8 p.m. So if there was a way you can do that, please sign up. But we also have other slots. What I've done is on the clipboard is highlight where we have the need. So check it out and sign up for 1 or more. Or if you don't know yet, you need to check, get in touch with me and call me or text me or whatever way you need to reach me. Thank you. I'll pass it around now.
And for Saturday and Sunday, Saturday, as you know, we're selling wine. I think we're pretty well filled up. There are a couple of slots open. If you look at the sign up Genius, you'll see a couple open slots, or you can just tell me if you want to work. Sunday, Curtis will 2 open slots at 2 to 4 for parking. If you are on the Saturday or Sunday list to help and you do not have one of these parking passes, please raise your hand and I'll get you one. Otherwise, we'll see you Friday.
I'll just add on, if you're working the parking on Sunday, please use one of the passes, because otherwise you're taking up a paid spot in the city hall lot. And we're splitting the proceeds with the city of Foster City. The wine also, yeah, parking. It's a partial split. We keep most of that. I think we're giving them 15%. Yeah, 15% of the profit. Okay, Teresa, Rotary Means Business.
I have an update on Rotary Means Business. We have secured speakers, actually 2 speakers from the Presidio Bay Ventures. They're developers that are going to be developing a life science complex in St. Carlos. So they'll be speaking and talking about the impact to the community. We've also changed the venue. So originally I said we were going to have it at Par 3, but we're going to be having it at Waterfront Pizza. So more affordable. They can comfortably fit 40 people. We'll have doors open ventilation. They'll be serving pizza and salad, and it'll be a no-host bar. Again, it's on September 20th, which is a Tuesday from 5:30 to 7. We are in the process of putting together a flyer. We are going to get a QR code to streamline the process of registration. Next update, and I will fill you in as things develop. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, we have some time for some Jeff Brown videos, which I didn't vet, but Shiraz did. So let me, is that going?
Wait a minute. So if you're at home, you need to come watch your video, or else playing the video is not helpful to you. So you don't start it yet.
Oh.
So the first video is, I
This is
think,
a video,
you'll find
not a speech.
interesting. And there is a quiz at the end. It's a very easy quiz, but there will be a quiz. So turn the sound up. This is I think you'll enjoy this one.
I don't know.
We need sound too. Keep going.
It's the people you love, not the money and stuff that makes you
I don't think I can do the same. Can't do the sound.
No music?
Yeah, it's feeding back for the Zoomers.
There's supposed to be music playing, but you can see what's happening here. So anyway, this shows how people age. There's really some nice country western music, but I'd like to see a show your hands if you recognized at least 80% of these people. Raise your hand. Thank you. Curtis recognized less than half, showing his age, and I said this group. So the next video is pretty short. We don't need the sound.
I
so
need to get to. Do you want to show the next video?
Yeah, it's only 30 seconds.
Okay.
So gentlemen, be careful what you do when you're working your computer.
Okay. I didn't realize I gave up the mic. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Okay, let me start it over here. Okay, moving right along. We are going to have, is Bob Kaplan here for a short TRF moment? Does your video have need
Yes,
audio?
Yeah. Let's not do it.
I need to load it.
Let me see. So I am Bob Kaplan, your TRF chair. TRF stands for the Rotary Foundation, for those of you who don't know that. And every month I get to give you a talk about the Rotary Foundation. Last month, we talked about the word legacy as it relates to gifts and bequests to TRF. Today, the word is connection. My predecessor, Mike Hoffman, and I talked to you about all the wonderful things that the Rotary Foundation can do. The connection is between your gifts to TRF and the good it does in the world. 91% of the funds you contribute to TRF are used for program awards and operations. That's an extraordinarily high percentage. One time I talked about a charity I won't talk about today that had less than 20% of the money going to program operations. 2 weeks ago, Cindy introduced us to a water and sanitation project located in Bangladesh. This project is directly connected to our club's membership through district designated funds, DDF. But there's more. This project was hosted by the San Francisco West Club, a group of around 25 members, which is small. Because they didn't have enough funds in their club to complete the project, they teamed up with clubs in our district, including ours. You saw, if you were here in the video 2 weeks ago, it was amazing what they accomplished. The picture of the sanitary system before Rotary helped was anything but sanitary. The project not only provided sanitary services for the school, but they were sustainable, and they also provided non-potable water. But there's more. I learned more about Bangladesh in 1 hour than I ever knew in my entire life. This is a place where most of us, probably none of us, will ever visit, but all of us help there. To know that we were a help in Bangladesh is very rewarding. Now, it's a time of year where we're asking for contributions to the Rotary Foundation annual fund, but there's a benefit. The benefit is for every $25 you contribute to the annual fund, you'll receive 1 raffle ticket. And the raffle prizes are pretty cool. The top prize, and this is on November 12th, so we have time, but there's no time like the present. The top prize is $2,000 Visa gift card. The total gifts are amount you can win is $6,300. And I don't want to get choked up about this, but I don't think you get a 1099. I'm sorry, emotional. So to give you an idea of the kind of things that the Rotary Foundation does, hopefully we can run this very short 1 minute video from the Rotary Foundation. Curtis, Joy.
Okay, we'll try to do this video here. Okay, I'm gonna have to share it for everybody.
Thank you. If you have any questions about TRF, give me a call. Thank you.
Do the people on Zoom get any audio from that video? Okay, good. Okay. All right, I had to troubleshoot that. I can't tell what's on Zoom, so I have to ask them. Okay, Shiraz has a 10-minute segment for fellowship right now. So we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Well, just when I thought that we were having fellowship, everybody disappears. Hi, Ann, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. You know, the pictures that you posted, so many places. It must have been just fabulous voyage.
It was an amazing journey. Now I want to go back.
Of course.
And
Now, have you been to any of those countries before?
only France.
Oh, that's why.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I've done the Netherlands and France.
Okay. Okay.
But I got back and I had been gone for so long that I just fully expected the latte and croissant to be on my desk when I got in every morning.
Duh, of course.
Well, I was late today because I was listening to a lecture on the Supreme Court by a professor who teaches at the Fromm Institute, where I've been going to since I retired in 2005. It was 2 hours of lecture and 15 minutes of questions. So he did agree with two of the concepts. Number one, the Congress could raise the number of justices to 13 based on the fact that we have 13 judicial circuit courts of appeal. And the second thing is, he did agree with this concept that if the Congress, let's say relative to abortion, said it was a fundamental right of privacy covered by the liberty aspect of the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court would have a great difficulty in overturning it. Any thoughts?
Well, number one, increasing the numbers, unless that's the maximum, it makes no sense. So this administration increases to 13, then the next one is going to increase to 15. I mean, where do you draw the line? And unfortunately, it's too.
This is based on our rationale. We've had Supreme Courts as low as 4, 5. If the Democrats win, they should exercise their power. The whole focus of this lecture was the politicalization of the court.
Of course, yeah.
And
so that's interesting, Bob. When you say the politicizing the court, hasn't that gone back to the beginning of the court, really?
I don't think so.
No, not really. One interesting part of this lecture was the issue of going back to this originalism, this very, very conservative interpretation of the court. But yet in the Federalist Papers, it's fairly clear that there was a kind of a dispute, and the issue is whether I forget which one was Madison or Jefferson, to go back and look at the papers, but there was a strong suggestion that this is a living constitution, and it adjusts itself to the current times. And of course,
And there used to be judges like Scalia and Ruth Ginsburg, who were on opposite sides of the political, environment, and yet they agreed many times because the Constitution was first, the country was first. There were a lot of things that were first that has disappeared.
well, I think they disagreed legally. I think they were very close friends, but when Ginsburg was on the court, usually Scalia filed a dissent on a major issue. So there was clear collegiality against the court between liberals and conservatives. But it's pretty clear to me that, like the Dobbs decision, it just doesn't make any sense. No, really. If you
Very good, Bob. Yeah.
no, legally, I'm a retired lawyer. So,
Well, it doesn't make any sense, even based on their argument that this is basically the present environment of our country, which it of course is not.
I'm going to change the topic if you don't mind. Roger and I, we just came back from Edinburgh and we hired a guide for 2 days, and he turned out to be a Rotarian who belonged to the Edinburgh Club. And he was the most delightful guy. He took us to Edinburgh Castle, to Holyrood, and then he took my granddaughters, 2 of them came with us, to see Harry Potter sites, and they were just thrilled to death. And then in the spirit of our family, there were 6 of us, we went to 2 serious places, Harry Potter places. And between castles, he took us to a playground in the middle of Edinburgh. So they had a great time. It was just wonderful. And we got to see the military tattoo, which only happens in August, with 900 participants. It was just terrific. With great weather, beautiful night, fireworks. It was just great.
where was the military tattoo again?
In Edinburgh. It only happens in August in Edinburgh. And it's been going on for, 55 years, rain or shine, but fortunately it was shine. And it was my goal. My maiden name is Chambers. So it was my roots trip. And so we went, and then my granddaughters and my son stood under Chambers Street sign so they know what their last name is also. And then we went to London for 5 days and did, Tower of London and Buckingham Palace, the Eye. It was all terrific. We just had a great time.
Were you there when there was this tremendous heat wave?
Yes, not tremendous. It was warm, not terrible. The 2 takeaways are, 1, we took the train from Edinburgh to London. It was so easy, so nice, 4 hours. They served food, they served drinks. Why we can't have that from San Francisco to LA is beyond me. And number 2, in the spirit of Anne, we had this terrific coffee where J.R. Rowling's brother-in-law owns the coffee shop that she wrote the book in. And you realize Starbucks has just destroyed coffee. The coffee there is so much better versus coffee, Starbucks here. That's all I can say. We had a great time. It was wonderful. We just got back Monday.
We're off to Maui on Saturday for 2 weeks. We bought a timeshare 20 years ago. And of course, we use it for trading a lot, but we're going to our timeshare, which they really renovated nicely since we bought it 20 years ago. So
Roger was born on Maui. So we get him out of the airport, we always wave to his home site near the sugarcane plantation. But he grew up in, but we always go to Maui. We drive through the fields just so we see where Roger grew up. That's what we do.
Okay, Bob, what airline were you on? Or excuse me, Bob, what airline are you taking?
We're taking United.
Oh, yeah, okay.
United with an N95 mask.
With what? I'm sorry?
An N95 mask.
Oh, good idea.
Which is kind of the highest protection you get.
Oh, I see, with the mask.
Yeah. Interesting enough, my wife got COVID, I think at a dinner party on a Wednesday night, and she developed symptoms on a Saturday. This was weeks and weeks ago, and I never got it, but we really had tremendous safety protocols in effect. So if you take the proper precautions, and I can't wait till we get this new shot in the fall, because people who are somewhat elderly like us, to get it, it's trouble. I guess we're back. I'm gonna go mute myself.
Okay, we're gonna get ready for our main program here. Did everybody get to see the letter from Hillbarn? Could we circulate that? Where's the letter from Hillbarn? I think it's there. Diana, is that the letter? Diana Schroeder? Is that the letter from Hillbarn? Can you pass it to that side of the, here, I'll get. Okay, I'm gonna invite Assistant Governor Mark Watson, past president of this club, former vocational chair for District 5150, an esteemed attorney.
Okay. So as bad as elder abuse, as bad as you think elder abuse is, it is much worse. That's why we're lucky to have today's speaker. Cassie Villar is the outreach and training specialist with San Mateo County's Adult Protective Services. She's worked in her current position for 9 months and spent 21 years at the county's Children and Family Services Division. Kathy's message is that the county's older population, as it increases, so does our need to share crucial information on how each of us can play a role in recognizing and, if possible, preventing elder abuse and dependent adult abuse. Towards that end, Kathy will talk to us about a multidisciplinary approach to helping these victims, as well as services provided by APS. Kathy's goal is to help our club and others learn the signs and symptoms of what are often very hidden crimes, as well as the most effective ways to report suspected abuse. So without further ado, our guest speaker, Kathy Villar.
Use this power. Oh, wow. I didn't notice that. Here? Okay. Oh no, do I just use this HDMI cable?
Oh, you have a presentation?
Yeah. No worries, I could not use it. I could just talk. You know what?
Can you log on to Zoom and?
You know what? Let's just talk.
Okay.
It's fine. I go with the flow. So speaking here. Oh, sorry, this is so cool. I've never actually done a Zoom and an in-person. This is great. Yeah, you guys impressed me. Like, I haven't done this. This is awesome. My office is still like, how do you do that one? I don't know. Yeah, this is great. So thank you guys for having me today. I totally appreciate it. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Cassie Villar. I've been with the County of San Mateo, as you heard, for 22 years. I like to tell people I started at -5, but no, I literally was working with our foster youth for about almost 21 years. During that time, I was also a caretaker to my wonderful grandfather, who's our classic World War II veterans. So I definitely understand both sides of the house when we're dealing with our older population, caretaking for different generations, but also working with youth. So I definitely appreciate you guys having me here today. So my training objectives, I know I have 25 minutes, but half the time people go, man, I wish you had more time. Call me back. I could talk about other things as well. But for today, in the sake of time, I'm gonna kind of just go over here within San Mateo County. Aging and adult services, I'll break it down, it gets a little confusing. Adult protective services, and also a program called EDAPT. Don't worry, I will break it down. Just for the government, we love acronyms. We make long words and then cut them into, and after years, we don't remember what it means. But I promise you, I'll tell you what it means moving forward. So why is this conversation really important? Our populations are growing for our older communities. People are living longer. I come from a household of all four of my grandparents lived till their 90s. And so how does that affect our community, families, caretaking, and so forth? So as we're starting to look forward. California also is talking about an aging, our aging population. People think Florida is #1. California has one of the biggest older populations in the country. So by 2030, we're going to have a huge increase of individuals living in long-term care facilities. Another thing is our young baby boomers. By 2030, they are all over 65. They're the second biggest generation next to millennials. And so not only is our baby boomers getting older, but we're living longer. And so having these conversations are important. Also, our folks over 85 are expected to also live longer. And so that population is going to grow about 20%. So we're definitely going to be shifting in the next few years. I'd like to give some numbers. You know, we're all San Mateo County residents, but just like to break down within our own community, about 1 in 4 of our residents are over the age of 65. So for our state specifically, that does make us a little on the older side. Our baby boomers, like I mentioned, my mom is a baby boomer and she just retired. But by 2030, everyone will be over 65. And so these are shifting our dynamics here within our county and how we serve our population. Now, our county is also unique. Majority of our older population are homeowners, but let's just also keep in mind as a caretaker, my grandparents bought their house in 1954 for $35,000. It's worth over $1 million plus easily. But when my grandfather passed, his pension was really limited to him. When he retired in his 60s, he made good money for a pension. He was a Teamster truck driver. But as he was in his 90s, that $1,200 pension got tighter and tighter and tighter. And so for us as a family, we moved in to be that traditional multi-generational household. At one point, there were 4 generations, 0 to 92. It's really fun, you know, but that affects our community. My neighborhood growing up, my grandparents knew everybody. My grandfather kept an eye on our neighbor who was a widow for 20 years. He kept an eye on the other lady who was also a widow, would take her for hair to get done. But as our communities are evolving and changing, that's not always the same. I have new neighbors, I have no idea who they are, but they just bought the house. So keeping in mind, yes, that could put people sometimes in very vulnerable situations. There's a widow, their house is worth $2 million, they're living alone, but they're on a really tight income. Now for our non-homeowners, our renters, our older population, some facts. San Mateo County we have water on both sides, right? We have our ocean, we have our bay, but we love to drive down 280 and go, wow, these rolling hills. About 75% of our county is protected land. So people go, why don't we just build? It's protected. We can't, we're very limited on where we can build and expand. And this also affects our rent. Why is it so expensive? We're building all these fabulous apartments around here, but on a fixed pension or retirement money, $3,000 is pretty tight. I mean, not everybody has it. So it's affecting our communities and putting people in different situations of possibly being vulnerable. So I'll talk about adult protective services. We are different. We are not the ombudsman. I like to clarify because that does get confusing. Believe me, I did not know what they were until my grandmother entered a nursing home. So for an ombudsman, if someone is in a long-term care facility, you would contact San Mateo County Ombudsman. Anybody living independently would be Adult Protective Services. Do want to keep in mind, California changed our requirement for older adults by definition. We are now 60 and up as of January 1st. Prior was 65 and up. Every state is different and does not mean that all laws have changed. Example, we have a restraining order for older adults, but it's still 65 and up, even though Adult Protective Services is now 60 and up. So not everything will necessarily align, but we don't also just protect older adults, we have adult dependents. And so adult dependents are between 18 to 59. And now, like I stated, our older adults are 60 and up. What's an adult dependent? It's kind of could be a little gray sometimes, but basically it's anyone between 18 to 59, and they do need some assistance for their everyday life, if maybe due to physical or mental limitations, and they do need that assistance. Typically, if you know of any of Golden Gate Regional Center, we like to call it GGRC, that's the acronym. But if they're usually connected, that means that they're most likely going to qualify for dependent adults. And there's also life happens. Maybe later on, somebody cognitively is having challenges and qualifies. So if you're ever questioning, like, are you adult dependent? Just call our hotline. We'll talk you through it. This is the interesting part coming from child welfare. I really didn't put much thought in thinking about older adults. I worked with minors for 2 decades. But I came with the thought, and I'll be honest, that APS, Adult Protective Services, has more power than they really do. Wow, they don't. Wow, no. We are literally talking about adults, and it's a hard thing to grasp because as a caretaker, as I'm watching my mom, get older in life, we really can't force anybody to do anything. I'm working with adults. So Adult Protective Services is 100% voluntary. It's voluntary, meaning you can have a social worker knock on your door and you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer the phone. You can't we can't force ourselves in. We can't do removals. I'm coming from the other side of the house. We had our own court. We have our own placements. And so it's literally going out and kind of readjusting our expectations. Working with an 86-year-old is different than working with a 6-year-old. And keeping in mind, yeah, we're adults. We can make good and bad decisions. But like I said, it doesn't mean we don't try to get creative in helping our individual, our community. APS #1 objective is to seek self-determination. Fancy word. Basically, what it really truly means is that you are able to make decisions on your own. Regardless of people agreeing or not agreeing with you, you're an adult. Now, the only time legally anyone could be forced to do something is through conservatorship. And that is extremely the last resort because we're taking somebody's rights away. We don't take that with a grain of salt. Also, until a judge actually signs off on a conservatorship, you can't do anything. And there's a lot of gray, and I'll be honest with that when it comes to being cognitive. But when we're talking about conservatorship, we're talking about someone going through multiple evaluations, process. I mean, there's a lot of checks and balances that go through, and the person who is being requested to be conserved can contest the process until the end. So we have rights as adults. So I do like to talk about what we don't do, but then what we do, because it sounds like, man, you guys do nothing. Well, sort of, and then we also try. So for instance, we can't take control of anyone. I can't put you on a psychiatric hold. I can call, but I can't force you to do anything. We don't force people out of their homes. That's one big myth that I do hear in our older population is, oh, I'm afraid they're going to take me out of my house. Actually, we can't. And so sometimes by having these conversations and bringing this awareness, if someone trusts you to say, hey, Bob, there was this worker and I didn't answer the door and they left their business card and I don't want them to tell me what to do. You can say, hey, actually I went to a training. They can't tell you what to do, but they're actually just truly authentically here to help you, but they can't take you out of your home and do all these things. So that's kind of just bringing awareness. We don't make medical diagnosis, but we make referrals for those. We do not share confidential information unless the person agrees. We do not get involved in family disputes. Boy, are they complicated. I have them in my own family. Woo! And some of these arguments, I wasn't even born. Like, really, we're still there, guys. Okay, so we don't get involved. We can't fix it. It's been 40 years. But where our objective is to really investigate the person that we got called out for. Yes, we understand their family support, but we really have to focus on the older adult that we are here to ask, do you need support? We don't deliver meals. Got a lot of calls during COVID, but it doesn't mean we won't connect to our churches. We're the resource hub. So call us if you ever need any support. Meals on Wheels. Our social workers will even sit there and do online applications. If we'll do what we need to do so that you are fed and that you don't feel alone. Like I said, we can't accept people. We can't force people into our house. You know, the first time I went on a field visit, I was like, all right, this is so fun. I love going back in the fields, knocked on the door. Lady said, nope, shut the door. And I was like, that was it? What? That was it? It's like, you know, yeah, she just, I watched him have the conversation. Hey, I know you were a victim of some financial fraud. I'm a social worker. We have some support if you need it. She's like, no, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that was it. Okay. We respect that. We're not here forcing ourselves, but those are kind of situations. Some people might want some help. Most people aren't aware, but banks are mandated reporters. And so a lot of our information regarding financial do come through the banks. And lastly, like I said, we don't force anybody out of their home. We don't make placements, which is hard when we have people calling, say they're about to be homeless, their rent shot up $500 and now they're outpriced. We'll try to connect as much as possible, but we don't have like homes to put people, which is, it's honestly tough. So I would like to just piggyback on a few different types of elder abuse, just so that we can have these conversations. Physical abuse is one of them. I do like to keep in mind, I know Coumadin very well. Like you literally go like this and you're bruised everywhere. We know medication bruises, certain types, but certain areas are questionable. Like grandpa and my mom, always arm, maybe they'll let you know, but not neck. My mom did not fall into the counter from her neck, you know, or the in between thighs, bottom of feet. Domestic violence does occur still. It's just not talked about. If you are being hit at 27, doesn't mean at 77 he stopped hitting you. The difference is you might be a little more isolated now. You could kind of blame it on some medication and some age, but it doesn't always stop. Bottom of feet is another area. Sexual abuse does still occur. It's a little higher in our adult dependents, especially if someone's nonverbal and can't communicate. Doesn't mean that every single age in life is still not at risk. Emotional is really hard because words hurt internally, but they don't show on the outside. Sometimes it's also, how can we support that burnout caretaker? Because they're tired too. And it's devastating to watch your hero start deteriorating in front of you. I get it. I had to shift my mind that my grandfather's 93, but cognitively he might be about 3 in certain times. It's a hard thing. Neglect, 2 types of neglect. You can neglect me and I can neglect myself. 2 different types, meaning I'm not showering, I'm not feeding myself, I'm depressed, I don't want to pay my bills or take my meds, or the person who's supposed to be helping me with that isn't doing it. People do get abandoned. And then one of our biggest thing is financial. I do my own trainings when it comes to scams, we could talk about that forever, but I literally do. And I could come back another day about what we're seeing on the hotline. One of the trends recently was those gift card scams. So I'm always more than open to come back, but our older population and dependent adults, actually anyone can be a victim of scam. I don't like to just say, oh, it's the older. No, it's everyone actually. Like to talk about some vulnerability factors. Trust. Trust is one of them, but let's keep in mind 60 to 100 is a lot of different generations and decades. My mom's a baby boomer. She's probably one of the most skeptical people I know, which is very common for baby boomers. They trust no one, which is interesting because their parents trusted anyone. When you're talking about maybe 80, 90, a handshake is like a contract, right? He gave my word, that's solid. But when you're dealing with maybe 60 and 70-year-olds, they're like, who are you? I watched Dr. Phil and I know about the love scam. Like, my mom's not playing. She's really serious. So it's just a matter of knowing your who you're talking to and kind of the familiarity with their generation and their experiences. Depression's huge. It's sad. A lot of folks are isolated or they don't feel worthy. Ageism is definitely a real thing, but just, not having somebody to talk to puts people in maybe vulnerable situations, like easy a love scam. He was giving me attention. I didn't know when stopping by. So these are things that could put people in kind of a risk factor. And we're talking about who are these abusers? Typically, you know them. About 90% of the time, they're familiar. 10% they're not. Many times it's family members. The hardest part we have in our job is that mom is protecting son who is stealing her money and refuses to do anything. Now, we cross-report any criminal behavior to our local PD. But once again, if mom's not helping, and is like protective of him, we can't do anything. We can only document until she's ready. Just like to talk about some signs. Isolation's pretty big, as we know. I have some family who are super active, like you guys. And then I have some family who rarely goes out of the house. If you have those friends who just, stay home a lot more and don't go out and aren't as social, check in. How you doing, Jerry? I haven't seen you. Good to hear from you. It makes their day. But it also having those conversations. How's your health? How's your life? Now let's use Jerry, right? You talk to Jerry and she's always been pretty good and active, and all of a sudden Jerry's not coming. And you're like, you know what, Jerry, I'm gonna stop by. I haven't seen you in a few months. Jerry lost like 40 pounds and she was only like 80 pounds. That's a lot. As we get older, the more weight we lose is concerning. She's telling you she's missing doctor's appointments. She's nervous around her new caretaker. I always say the one thing you can't buy is intuition. Your intuition is your number one tool. Literally every time I've gone against it, I was like, ugh. I knew that answer and I still went against the grain. Evading health questions. Maybe you're seeing some questionable bruising. Those are just risk factors. So I like to just go over, once again, isolation, maybe fear about being around somebody, evading some questions, missed medical appointments, possibly weight loss, so forth. Financial elder abuse, just to kind of cover really quickly, what does that mean? When someone's taking money or property, forging someone's signatures, like different if grandfather gave me money to go to Safeway. But what if I went to Best Buy and bought like a washer and dryer? He only approved me $20 for the list and he came back $2,500. That's questionable. Really is. Deeds, this is a big one that's happening right now, is because our property assets are so high out here. But really, happened in my own family, where one sibling is telling mom to change the will so that she could get the house and kick out the other ones. That's why I say this is usually generations and years in the making, but this does happen. We do try to really bring awareness to a lot of different peoples that this does happen. One thing, like we like to say, wills and trusts are different. Trusts are stronger than a will. And telemarketing scams, anybody who's literally trying to violate you or use you for their own tactics. And if that's to extract money, that can come through fear, scare tactics, exaggerated claims like your son's in jail. No, he doesn't, send me money. Well, did you pause and call your son? Because he's probably home. That did happen to one of our DA detectives. Her grandma called, your cousin's in jail. Oh my God, grandma, what? No, and then I gotta send money. She's like, I'll call you back. Call the cousin. He was home. Grandma, he's home. Did you think to call? No, they told me not to. Whoever was on the phone said, don't call your family to worry them. Right. It's like if I always, my joke is I won the lotto, but I don't play. Like I know I should win, but I've never actually really bought the ticket. Like then I clearly can't win the lottery. So those are kind of, financial elder abuse kind of things. Also, like our statements going to someone else's address all of a sudden when it always went to Jerry. Now they're going to the caretaker. And Jerry was always well kept, and now you see her and she's got holes in her, like she's not upkept. These are kind of just signs. It could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be anything. So from our financial perspective, San Mateo County, we have a huge increase in financial abuse cases. And so in 2016, through the Measure K funding was passed. And so from our funding, we created our, this is long, Elder Independent Adult Protection Team. We call ourselves EDAP. It's pretty long. What does that mean? Even if we're in county, doesn't mean we actually have the best communication. I'll be honest, I don't know anybody really at the sheriff's like that. So what it is that we have our own little unit that works together. We have 2 social workers who are trained in financial abuse. And so they go out and investigate financial claims. We have 2 detectives at our DA's office who are assigned to only work on elder abuse fraud cases. They also work with me when it comes to training. We cross-train EMTs, fire department, police departments. One thing I will say is conversation is not as big when we're talking about our older adults. 2 taboo topics that I find is people are uncomfortable is getting older and money. And we usually talk about it when it's too late. What we're trying to do is have these conversations earlier to be preventative. We also have our county counsel, just a fancy word for county attorney. And then there's me. I'm the education and outreach specialist. And so my job is to go out. I talk to anybody. I do resource booths. I do senior fairs. I come to Rotary clubs, just bringing that awareness, because to me, you guys are all of our foot soldiers. Just being aware, just having this conversation because we don't just have professional lives, we also have personal lives. And so anytime a situation occurs, now maybe, hey, I heard about that fraud, or maybe you can help somebody not be afraid to have the door open, if somebody comes in to help. Just know that if you feel like I want to make a report, our older adults are really overlooked. For every 1 report we get, 24 are missed. Most attention, most finances, funding are for the children. I've even done trainings and people have never heard of adult protective services. And so what we're here to is just really bring the awareness. You don't have to be a detective. You just have to be suspicious. That's all. Give us a call. It's okay. And if you feel guilty for the other 24 people who didn't get a call. Because you know what? 1 call could change someone's lives and they just don't know it. So we do have a hotline. I have all our information. I brought resources. We have 3 social workers staffed Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. They will help you any way they can. We don't really do emergency. We do have social workers on call 24 hours a day, but emergencies are much different. than working with minors. But our workers are here to help you. They consult on cases, any kind of community information and resources, give them a call. If you ever know or need in-home support services, that's where you would call to start the process. And that's about it. Like I said, I just really appreciate you guys, hearing me out on what Adult Protective Services is, how we could support you. And if you have any questions, I will be around to be able to answer them.
Can you answer some?
Sure.
Do we have any
wow.
questions for, it's
It says
Cassie?
we can't hear. Oh, I just saw that, sorry.
It's Cassie.
Yeah.
Any, thank you. Bob has a question there.
Yeah.
Can we get the microphone, or can we get the microphone to Bob?
Thank you for that. About 10 years, I'm a CPA. About 10 years ago, I was convinced that one of my clients was suffering elder abuse. I called the protection services in the county north of here, directly north, and I talked to 3 different people, and each one I thought I was briefing the first time. And I guess my question is, when you refer someone, do you ever get any feedback, or are you totally in the dark on that?
When you make a referral?
Yeah.
So anytime somebody makes a referral, after that, it becomes confidential. That's the tricky part, because you have great intentions to know what the outcome is. By law, we can't release it to anybody unless the person gives permission. And even when you make a call, you're an anonymous reporter. The person's never going to find out who it was. So I can on the end, but I couldn't legally give you the information without consent.
Jamie.
Yeah, so you were mentioning that conservatorship is the last resort. Once you get to that point, and I don't know how you get to that, but once that elderly person is under conservatorship, then that elderly person is under control of someone else, correct? And has to do what they said.
Yes, correct. So I will break down just a few. There are different conservatorships. There is a conservatorship for adult dependents. That's a limited conservatorship, meaning that it's not going to have so many stringent attachments to it because they want to promote independence. There is a general, meaning later in life, you lived a healthy life, but later on you got Alzheimer's or full-on dementia and you're not capable. There's also not only general, but there's 2 types. You can have conservatee of the person and or the estate, right? So the general is lifelong term. The limited can be long term unless a judge feels that the dependent adult is fit to be on their own. And then lastly, it's LPS, Latterman Petrus in short. Ooh, I got it. That's long. That's the mental health one. And so that means you were born with some mental health cognitive challenges, and those typically are only a year. So to extend it, you're going to have the judge. But to get conserved, you're gonna, like a general, you're gonna have to go lots of evaluations, and you're gonna have a lot of oversight. Typically, it could be a good 6 months plus until a judge signs off if he feels fit. But even when those 6 months, we legally can't force anybody to do anything.
Okay, Patricia,
So just to go to Jamie's,
get the microphone, please.
just to go to Jamie's question, even if you're conserved, and I deal with a lot of conservatorships, they are given the ability to say yes or no. We need to treat the individual with dignity, and we allow them a certain amount of yes or no. And so they're not totally told what to do all the time.
Right.
But going back to something else that you mentioned, fear is a big factor. And oftentimes the perpetrator of the abuse is in the house with the elder. And so when APS comes along, or the social worker comes along, that individual will not say anything in front of them, and trying to get them separated is really a big deal. And thirdly, quickly,
A lot of family members are now moving back in with mom and dad and are basically sponging off them because mom and dad will not ask them to pay rent.
Yeah.
And they say they can't, so basically they're being kept. But that sometimes goes that little bit further, and the individual is basically taking advantage of their parents, and that's a form of abuse. People do not realize it, and I come across it almost constantly.
Okay, last one really quickly.
Cassie,
Mike, please, for the Zoomers.
Run the youth arm of Rotary at San Mateo High School. And we have kids always looking for projects. And as I'm sitting here and listening, maybe you are a source, maybe a home that an elder is still living in, but can't do the repairs, you know, it falls in disrepair, gardening, paint, steps, railing, whatever. Perhaps that's a project where we could marry a need that you have for a free service that we give and do some greater good for our elders. I know the kids could get on board with that. So you can reach me through Patricia. And anytime you see a need like that, pass it on to Patricia, she'll find me. And we'll see if we can raise some action.
Perfect. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Stay here for a second. Thank you very much, Cassie. We have a speaker's gift for you. So what we're going to do is Rotary is on the path to fight polio. And so we are giving a small amount donation to the polio fund for every speaker that comes to speak in front of us. And then this is a commemorative picture of one of our projects, which is refurbishing playgrounds in the Bay Area, taking them out and installing them in the Yurok Indian Nation up in Klamath, California, near the Oregon border. Yeah, those kids, actually, that's
cool.
that's the purveyor of the playgrounds right there.
You know, and I appreciate this because this hits home for my career of 2 decades working with youth. So, you know, you never know, one of these kids could have been a foster youth, and we just gonna tell you that because I know Aragon, I know all them schools.
Okay.
So
Thanks
thank
again.
you guys.
Want a picture? Oh, she wants a picture in front of the flag.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I have resources if you guys just, you know, flyers.
I think Cassie has some flyers if you're interested in getting some information. All right, thank you to Jeff Brown for greeting and providing the videos. Thank you to Ann Ritzma for the pledge, Jim Gold for the thought of the day. Tracy Avalar took the minutes today. Thanks to Phil Romley for helping out with the tech table, and Larry Kavinoki for being the treasurer, and Ed Grohe and JP for the Sergeant of Arms. Next week, we're going to have Anthony Tanzamore from the Peninsula Humane Society. He will speak about the Humane Society's issues during COVID. So thank you, and we are adjourned.